Good afternoon. Welcome to another edition of the 411 Talk Zone radio show, Red Pill Edition. My name is Leon Jones, and in this segment, what I'm going to do is infuse a political party and men together. So the title of this video is The Infusion, RINOS and SIMPS, the comparison. The Infusion, RINOS and SIMPS, the comparison. Now, I decided to do this topic on my own here because there is a good comparison between RINOS. Now, if you don't know what a RINO is, if you are a Republican, for the most part, votes along the conservative lines. But you have some Republicans who are what we call Republican in name only. That's where the term RINO comes from. And when we talk about men, some of us here in the black sector have used the term simp. Now, what's ironic about a RINO and a simp is that they both have something in common. And what they have in common is validation of the other gender and the other party. But the funny thing about that is, when it comes to RINOs and SIMPs, when they look for validation, they're either looking for an easy way out because they don't want to offend anyone, particularly the other gender or the other party, or they just don't have any ideas. Because when it comes to simping, all of us in the African American sector of YouTube, to be honest, we have simped one time. I mean, I know I have. Why? Because I was trying to get somebody to like me. Doesn't always work. In fact, when you're a simp, it's easy for you to be used. Now, when it comes to simping, a number of simps are contradictory. And why do I say that? They're contradictory because they try to be Captain Saberho on one hand, but on the other hand, they want to sleep with women just like the so-called males that they disagree with do. And when it comes to RINO Republicans hide under the R for Republican, but in actuality, these RINOs, they like everything that the Democrats do. Why? Because they benefit from it. Now, when it comes to simps and RINOs, because they lack focus, or a number of them are afraid to be who they really are, they always want to go along to get along. You know what a simp will do? He's trying to buy love. What a RINO is trying to do is get people on the other side, particularly the Democrats, to include him in their, what I call, group. Because a lot of what you see out here, when it comes to RINOs and SIMPS is nothing more than contradiction. Now, again, when I talk about contradiction, you can change your position on something based off of new research. However, if you say one thing and do another, well, for the most part, you're not genuine. And when it comes to politics with the Republicans, and I vote Republican, but a number of the Republicans are not genuine. Now, of course, before I go on, let me be clear to you all. I'm not talking about all Republicans, and I'm not talking about all men, but I'm fusing men and Republicans in name only together because the simps give men a bad name and the RINOs give Republicans a bad name. And what's very consistent about the Republicans in name only and simps is that they are looking for validation. But the problem with the RINOs and simps, they're not genuine. They're very gullible. If I was in a compromising position with a RINO and a simp, and we had secrets, I couldn't be around a RINO and a simp because they would expose us. Why? Because they're really not for us in the first place. They're for the other side. They pretend like they're our brothers because they look like us, or they're in our same gender. And when it comes to the RINOs, they act as though they care about us, but in the long run, they don't care about us at all. So if you are a man and you're in the Republican Party, what you need to do is be honest with yourself. Because when it comes to the internet, we can say anything on the internet to make us look genuine. But the idea is you got to prove it with action. And if I look at what's going on in this country, when it comes to black males, see, there are a number of black males here on black YouTube that claim they don't like women, but in actuality, they're going behind the scenes to try to have sex with a number of these women on YouTube. You have a number of individuals who will tell you that their space is a male space, but then they allow women to come onto their space and the women control their space. And the women know that. So the women are going to use them. Why? Because the simp is one who's inconsistent. In fact, the simp thinks like she does. The simp is irrational. He gets in his feelings. He's easily offended. Well, when you look at these RINO Republicans, they get in their feelings too because they're afraid to put out information that's going to help the country out and their party, because they don't want to be deemed as a misogynist. They don't want to be deemed as a racist, a sexist, a homophobe. So what I say to that is, when it comes to the simps and when it comes to the RINOs, these are the people that are tearing men down, because there are a number of men who vote Republican. And usually a simp and these RINOs are very weak. And if you look at Black Lives Matter, if you're a man and you support Black Lives Matter, the group, you're a simp. See, a simp does not have to be validated by a woman he wants to be with. In my humble opinion, a simp is also a person who believes in feminism. He believes in womanism. That's what a simp believes in. And a simp is going to act out of impulse, even if he doesn't know the facts. Like, okay, let me give you an example. If a man and a woman are having a disagreement, and the man that the woman is having a disagreement with is her boyfriend or husband. Well, if something is taken out of context, that woman is going to run to her brother. She's going to run to a friend that she has in the zone and tell him a lie that this guy hit her, or this guy called her a uncanny name like a bitch. So what's going to happen? The brother or friend is going to go and attack the other guy. And at the end of the day, that doesn't change anything. And why doesn't it change anything? Because the simp who played Captain Saberhole didn't even take the time to listen to the facts. But when we go to the political situations, coming from the Republican side, they always tell you that the Republicans are for families. They're for lower taxes. They're for energy independence. They're for business. But when they go to vote, what they talked about is never mentioned in the bill. Why? Because it's unpopular. And see, one thing I learned about when I was simping, I learned about people, particularly women, being Machiavellian. Now, the term Machiavellian means manipulating. Because what a simp does is look for her validation, and she tries to get her on his side. And let me give you an example of what I'm talking about again. I was watching Hell's Kitchen, season 19. There was this young lady on there. Her name was Mary Ann or Mary Jo. She was African American. She came in second place. She had on a purple wig. And there was this guy named Cody. He looked kind of fruity. Well, she tried to entice Cody to be on her side. Because when it came to Hell's Kitchen, it was always the blue team and the red team. Cody was part of the blue team. So Cody thought that Mary Jo liked her. Well, in essence, she didn't like him. She was just using him. And what a lot of men do is we use our instinct of protectionism to take up for women who don't care about us. And when it comes to these RINO Republicans, we come out and try to tell our voters what's best for us. But what we're really doing, we're really hiding under the name Republican, because in disguise, we're either afraid to be Republicans or we're just undercover Democrats. This is why in politics, you always hear the Democrats and the Republicans. Because in the end, when it comes to Simping and RINOs, they're basically the same. The word simp comes from black culture, because a number of African American men are simps. Because most African Americans, they put women on a pedestal, even if women don't deserve to be on a pedestal. Now, I'm not hating women for this, but when it comes to a number of men, the reason why they get in the friend zone or they become simps is because a number of them are walking contradictions. And a number of them will say anything. I'm talking about African American men now. Oh, you have some white guys who will do the same thing. So let me just put men in one basket. A number of men will say anything to a woman, even if she's not attractive, to have sex with her. And a number of women know this. But see, the problem with a number of women, they think all men are like that. When, in essence, it's the men who are cucking and simping for them. And this is why a number of women act the way they act. And if you don't believe me, a number of these guys, particularly in the black sector, because I'm referring to the black sector because that's what I listen to when it comes to YouTube most of the time. For the most part, I'll tell you why I don't date single mothers. When there are a number of them who marry single mothers, and what happens is they become stepfathers. Because these individuals who are African Americans will do anything for some sex. Because a number of them lack confidence. Because simps, with them, they think they know what a woman wants to hear. Or they'll tell a woman what he believes she wants to hear. But at the end of the day, the simp is not a genuine person. You can't trust them. And same with the RINOs in the Republican Party. If you're a Republican out there and you are constantly upset with what's going on with your party, you look at people like Lindsey Graham, Mitch McConnell, Susan Collins, Mitt Romney. These are the guys holding the Republican Party back. They rode the coattails of President Trump, but then they go and stab President Trump in the back. But the real issue with the RINOs is they got on board for the ride, but they weren't for President Trump in the first place. They just wanted a vote of confidence from people like me who will vote for them because I don't like the Democrats. But But you have people like Joe Collins, who ran against Kerosene Maxine Waters. He claimed that he was a Republican, but when I looked at his Twitter page, he was out there marching with BLM. He was out there marching with the Democrats. He was looking for validation from the other side. And see, when it comes to the Democrats, they all stick together. They're monolithic. And when it comes to a number of women, particularly African-American women, most African-American women have what we call a sisterhood. Although a number of them are walking contradictions as well. They stick together even if they're wrong. This is where the term need to be right comes from, because they always want to be right, because they want everything their way. And generally, they can get everything their way because they know how to be Machiavellian to manipulate a man into giving her what she wants. Because a number of guys, they're looking for that vagina, and she dangles that vagina in front of these guys like a carrot. So a man will give all of his resources and time to her, and in the end, it may work, and it may not work. But when it comes to these Republicans will go out on the stump and tell us what we want to hear. And in the end, they don't get elected. Can't trust them. Because these Republicans, they want to line their pockets just like the Democrats. Except the Democrats do a better job. And they'll come out and tell you what they're going to do. And they're going to show you what they're going to do. And see, one thing about a simp and a RINO that's common with both of them, again, RINO is Republican in name only. A simp and a RINO don't have a backbone. They can be emotional if pushed to that point. A simp and a RINO are gullible. A simp and a RINO aren't true to who they are. Again, they tell you what you want to hear, but in the end, they're walking contradictions. This is why you can't trust a politician. And this is why you can't trust a simp. But if you're a member of the Republican Party, you definitely can't trust a number of these Republicans, because they do not have your back. A number of these Republicans, like I said, they didn't push hard enough to eliminate Obamacare. And see, a true man is going to do things that aren't popular. And see, that's what I look at in a person. Can you admit when you're wrong? And can you make a decision that's not popular? Now, here in the African American community, you had some brothers that built up the black manosphere. But what has messed a number of these brothers up is they allowed women on their platforms. And some of these women have used the brothers' platform to create their own platforms, and in the end, they're doing better than the brothers. Why? Because the brothers donate to these women's platforms. That's why these women can have all the outrageous standards, because women know that these men are going to cake for them every time. And these women are not going to give them sex. These women are going to take their money. This is why a number of women know how to work it. even if they are the most undesirable. So, with all these guys talking about, oh, I don't date single moms, a number of them do. I don't date a woman that's overweight. They'll tell you that. But if you go behind the scenes, that's where the real action is taking place. Because in the end, a number of these brothers are simping for some of these women. And again, when I talk about Machiavellian, that's just 1/3 of the dark triad. The other 2/3 are psychopathy and narcopathy. Because a number of women and Democrats, because that's another commonality too. Most of your women vote Democrat. Most of your modern day women believe in feminism. And this modern day woman is smart enough to get men on her side. This is why you have a lot of simps. And simps aren't just in the African American culture, they're all over. Because a number of these guys are afraid to tell women the truth. At the end of the day, when it comes to the RINOs, when it comes to the simps, they're very consistent in being walking contradictions. Now, you don't have to agree with me. Just look at it for yourself when you are listening to a number of YouTubers. There's a number of these dating coaches out here, and I'm not knocking them all. They're making a lot of money. They're making a lot of money trying to tell a man how to be a man, when in essence, they're benefiting off of a guy's failure. So when it comes to politics and you're a member of the Republican Party, individuals who are in the Republican Party, you got to get rid of the RINOs. Because when you have a lot of RINOs, like Bill Kristol and the former governor of New Jersey, Liz Cheney, they're going to hold you back. Because they're going to vote for everything that the Democrats vote for, while at the same time telling you that they believe in smaller government. Because with these RINOs, one hand doesn't watch what the other hand is doing. And when it comes to these simps out here, these simps aren't on the side of men either. A number of these simps are on the side of feminism. Because in the end, they believe that they know what a woman wants to hear. A woman is smart enough to use them. A woman is smart enough to laugh at them. Because these simps, they're not genuine either. Because these simps want to sleep with women just like non-simps want to sleep with a woman. But the difference is, simps don't have any game. Simps are weak. Simps are emotional. So to conclude this commentary, there is no difference between a simp and a RINO. And the consistency, or the common factor that a simp and a RINO have, is contradiction. Weak. No ideas. Simps don't know how to talk to women. And simps validate women, even if they're undesirable. And the RINOs, Republican in name only, they validate the Democrats, even if it hurts their own brand. And that's my commentary for this edition of the 401 Talk Song Radio Show, right here on YouTube. If you like what I just presented, please comment, share, and subscribe. And if you are looking for some education in STEM, check out the Mind of STEM channel. And on that channel, I give you a daily dose of science, technology, engineering, and math. I talk about subjects like industrial engineering, mechanical engineering, computer information systems, construction management, calculus, and other topics related to STEM. And on that channel, I started using Zoom. And I'm going to use that channel to provide PowerPoint presentations so you'll actually see what I'm talking about instead of me just talking about it in front of you. I want you to see the information. And also, you can check out my Blog Talk Radio Show. 215-383-5785 is the number. I'll get that back up. And if you can't find me on YouTube, Blog Talk Radio, simply check me out on MeWe, Parler, and Twitter. And at the end of the day, I'm going to leave you with this. Be blessed for what you have. Don't worry about what you don't have. Always know that the sun rises in the east and sets in the west. Once again, I'm not talking about all Republicans in this video, and I'm not talking about all men, but there are a number of men who are simping, and there are a number of Republicans who are RINOs. Men are being held back by simps, and Republicans are being held back by RINOs. Once again, thank you for listening to this edition of the 401 Talk Song Radio Show, right here on YouTube. Till next time, my name is Leon Jones. Want you all to have a wonderful and blessed day. God bless you. I'm out.